All right, we are back. Welcome back to the eSports Report, presented by Xbox One, official console of MLG. Puckett and Max here in the studio. We got Maven joining us from California, but Max, let's just jump right into it while Maven rejoins us. Group C. This is our third group. First one led by Optic. Second one led by FaZe. Group C, though, is going to be led by the Denial squad that comes in with the number 3 seed overall. Yeah, and this Denial squad replaced Temp, Slash, and Hook. After initially releasing their entire team after some roster issues, they brought back replays, and then they go out and they get two of the young guns in Temp and Hook, and Slasher, who has been a top bal in all of AW so far. But I mean, really, the thing about me is going to be how good can Denial be on land, because you look at them in the league, they're 12-3. That's their best. They have the best map record out of everyone. Yeah, they've only lost on Skyrise, S&D, Parliament, Uplink, and Retreat Hardpoint. Now, 2 of those maps are DLC. Like I said before, there'll be no DLC at UMG Dallas this weekend. So, they have that to look on. But, I mean, the thing really for me, though, Puckett, is how do you think that, Temp and Hook will really perform together? Temp and Slasher, because, they kind of play the same role. I think we've seen Slasher pull out the SMG, at least in the games I've cast. Right. Slasher seems really comfortable making his way over the SMG. Temp was actually running it quite a bit on Biolab as well. I look at this team and I see 3 incredible BAL players that at any moment one of them's going to take it out. I don't know what is the overall play style for them right now, though, because I've watched games where I expected it to be AR heavy, and there'd be 3 SMGs out, and Hook would be running a BAL. Next game, it would be Temp running the BAL. Denial is so versatile, and I feel like this is honestly the single squad that has the most potential in this group to really make a run and then even upset either FaZe or Optic Gaming. I don't think it matters what side of the bracket they'll have to play on later on. I think this team just has so much upside. And Hook and Temp, those are 2 players that looked absolutely incredible at the previous LAN events. Yeah. Temp, for me, talking to him at his first UMG, his first LAN event, the big spotlight, the crowd, he just said, "I'm not afraid of anyone. You can't ever be afraid. Why would you?" The man is so young and yet so mature. I think he's going to become the star player on this squad, which is really crazy when you look at the people he's surrounded by. A world champion in replays, a guy who had success from the very first tournament there in Slasher, and then Hook, who has been one of the most rising stars throughout AW. He broke out just this year. Same thing with Temp. Yeah, I mean, Temp X Games, absolutely dominant. Really shocking when Elevate released him, because that came out of nowhere. But as you see on the screen, number 2 overall KD in Season 3, only trailing Octane. He's going to be your Slayer here for Team Denial, which is, everyone can really slay. It's just who's doing it at what time. 1.26 overall KD, a 1.64 S&D KD. That's ridiculous. He's averaging almost 32 kills a game, 2.50 hardpoint defense, 1.27 hardpoint KD, and then a 1.14 uplink KD. But really, Puckett, I think the roles really need to be ironed out here with this team. Like you said, they can all pull out SMGs and BALs. I mean, there was one Pro League match where it was Retreat Hardpoint, and Hook was running an SMG and struggling the entire game. Pulls out a BAL towards the end, does a little well, and then Solar Hardpoint, he absolutely dominated with a BAL. That's if depending on whatever maps they get and who's actually going to be running the SMG, they could run into some issues. That's my worry with this team. It's a squad that can put you on your back. If you like to stay up close and personal, they can just pull back with the BALs and dominate you at afar. It's going to be the small maps that I'm worried about for them. Maps like Detroit, I think, could cause issues as they're trying to fight for those close quarters hard points. Biolab, a little bit more BAL favored, but still quite a few up-close battles that we saw them handle pretty darn well, at least in the Pro League, using those SMGs. As you mentioned, though, the key to Denial, they have 3 losses so far. 5 matches, 3 losses, 12 wins. 2 of those came in their very first match against another team that is in this group, Team Kaliber. TK started off 2-0. Denial came back and won the next 3. So they showed me they have determination. They have the ability to finish and bounce back at any time. And Team Kaliber, let's look at this squad next. I feel like this is a team that is maybe on the border of a roster change. You thought it would be great bringing in Theory and Neslo. Off to a rocky start there on night 1. It just kind of went downhill until they bounced back to go 1-3 so far in Season 3. Does this roster work for you, Sharp, bringing back his old school teammates? No, honestly, it doesn't. And I mean, I completely came out of left field that they released TJ Halley
hours before Season 3 started. I mean, they brought back Neslo in theory. Really, Rise just losing those 2 players. I mean, I guess they felt more comfortable playing with like their old teammates. Well, at least Sharp does. I mean, Nameless is still there from when they picked up Parasite and him. But, 1-7 in hardpoint so far in Season 3. They're outscored by an average of 71.25 points, Puckett. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Say that again, because numbers don't always sink in for me.
No. 71. They're losing by an average of 71.25 points. And they're only averaging a team KD of 0.85. That's like
so you don't have a key slayer on Team Kaliber is what you're trying to say.
You don't have a main slayer. Who your main Bal is, that's up in the air. It could be anybody.
It's Nameless.
I mean, you have theory. He's the main Bal, but
it's Nameless.
Anyway, I mean, with 2 hardpoints in the rotation, can TK even really take a series?
Maven is rejoining us now. Maven, we're talking Team Kaliber. Max just expressed his love for this roster.
Quote unquote love.
Yes, quote unquote love. What do you think of TK? Do they have what it takes to compete with a squad like Denial here in Group C?
Are you already dropping me questions?
Yes.
Oh, I just sat down.
You are so fast. Chandler was on top of it. She's like,
Maven
Chandler,
is back.
He is ready to answer. Can TK compete with Denial?
Okay, the answer, unfortunately, I believe is no.
Good answer.
TK, I love the guys on TK. I love the org of this TK. I like that they have faith in certain guys and like to bring them back and mix and match. But the fact remains, they mix and match with what feels like the same guys. I just don't see them having a chance against the real elite teams. Do I think they can make a run, possibly break into the top 6? Sure. I don't think they're going to be able to hang with your, Denials, Elevates, Phases, Optics. I don't think so. Unless they have a miracle run, which we've seen them do. I mean, thinking back to X Games, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Can they do stuff like that? Yes, but it has to be one of those. It's hard to say Cinderella story when you're a top team like TK, but they need one of those just kind of miracle runs, which we haven't seen much from them in that capacity lately.
Well, I got to ask you guys both. I'm always on Roster Mania watch after a LAN event. Is this a make or break tournament for this starting lineup? Is there a move if TK finishes outside the top 6?
I mean, who do you go for?
In what capacity? I mean, I don't think Sharp's going anywhere. I think Sharp is a TK for lifer. They love him there. We all love him. I think Sharp is with that organization till the end, so I don't think there'll be a change there. So I guess what's the question? Do they change the other 3 spots potentially, or is there just any kind of roster move?
Any kind of roster move. Do any of the current 4 starters get dropped, get set aside, and make room for someone new who also didn't have the ideal tournament?
Not unless they don't crack top 8. If they don't crack top 8, potentially I could see that.
But I mean, who would you even go ahead and release then? I mean,
it's a great question.
I mean, like, you just brought you brought back 2 players who have been on TK for numerous times and for extended periods of time.
Right.
Like, you dropped TJ Halley, who's been one of the breakout talents in AW. You released Parasite, who there was a lot of team issues there.
Yeah.
Very talented player.
Parasite, not the best teammate on Team Kaliber.
Right, but very, very talented as a player. No one can argue that. So, I mean, Maven, I don't know if you heard, they lose hardpoint by an average of 71 points in Season 3.
I know the 1 hardpoint I watched recently with them, the 2 hardpoints was against Optic Gaming, and they were 100-point games within a couple minutes. They were not even close. You saw Sharp put his controller through a wall after the series.
I did not see that.
You didn't see that?
Yeah,
I need to see this.
Yeah, he put his controller through a wall of the TK house after the series. I don't know what their woes are exactly, because again, the only hard point I think I've really watched them play is against Optic, and it's hard to really judge a team going up against them online or on LAN. I mean, we've seen top teams just get blown out in hard point, but I don't know, man.
It's tough, right?
It is tough, yeah.
I don't know what to expect out of Team Kaliber. Just like Justice last event at UMG, wouldn't be surprised on a magical run, but I don't think it's likely.
Well, hold up, real quick. Someone tweeted me saying, which this is good to hear if this was actually said, saying that TK said they're looking at this like a practice event. This is their first LAN with the 4 guys together. I think that's a really good way to look at it. A very good way to look at it, just because you shouldn't be judging it all by one event anyway. So if they have come out and said that, then no, I don't think there would be any change after 1 event, unless they end up getting like top 32 or something. But
That'd be drastic, yeah.
Hearing that quote, I can't imagine there would be changes if they're viewing this as kind of like a turn-up practice event.
Well, we're about 18% of the way done with Pro League. They're 1-3. Could bounce back, but they got a lot of time here. And I was told potentially TK might all be moving into the team house after this event.
That's important.
So that's a game changer if it happens. And if they don't have success, then that's when I think you adjust the roster. For now, let's keep rolling through the rest of this group. TK is going to be playing not only against Denial, they'll also be facing off against VVV in this event. Now, VVV has had a number of rosters recently. Their current one, well, it's a bit different. Fizz and John still remaining, but they've brought in Fears, and they're now teaming with Felony, who is with XGN at the last UMG event.
Yeah, and I mean, this team, like how much you're really expecting out of this team, also same storyline of, you know, how much are they expecting? They don't do anything. Oh, well, if they do something amazing, they upset, you know, Denial or TK, great. Fizz and John, they don't qualify for Season 3 relegation, neither does Fears nor Felony. I mean, you know, they released Killa, they released Twiz. Fears is a player, you know, third at AW Open way back in November. Haven't really seen much of him since. Felony started on AR in the beginning of AW. Haven't really heard much of him since. So
yeah, and he kind of got dropped because of his age at the time.
Right.
It's COD Champs logic there. And I feel like Felony, he's always had that potential, but really hasn't been able to make it. But I look at this squad and I'm like, who's your superstar? I always want to give it to John, but he's too unpredictable.
Yeah.
Who is the rock on this team for you, Maven? Who do you think is going to have the strongest event? Fears, Fizz, John, or Felony?
I don't know how you pick anyone other than John. I mean, I get what you're saying with your comment there, but John is one of my favorite players in Call of Duty. I love the kid. He's such a nice guy. If you've ever actually had a conversation with him, just a real stand-up kid. And I want them to do well. I want him to do well. I don't know who else. I mean, just because Fizzer, you know he's going to go big in S&D. Respawns, he's been very good at times, but still pretty inconsistent. Fears, we haven't seen a ton of, I guess. We always talk about how the fact that he's really good at titles upon launch kind of struggles as you go further into the title, but I still think he's a strong player. And Felony, young, talented kid. I still think, for me, it's John, for sure.
Yep.
That eyes will be on him for me.
I would say John. I mean, John is someone who we've seen, back in the Black Ops 2 throwback tournament a couple months ago, he went absolutely off filling in for, technically the Crim spot on Complexity. And think back to Black Ops 2. When Karma left Impact, John was their first option to fill his role. He can be your aggressive SMG. He can get in your face. He needs to be consistent. I mean, playing with the talent he has, his teammates also need to be very consistent.
I was looking, because VVV was at a relegation tournament.
Right.
Remember, they were playing with Killa. They made a big change, dropping Sin basically the week of.
Moments before roster lock.
To make room for Killa. And then they started off okay. They beat DT Purple. They were able to take down Enigma 6, knock them down. But overall, the only player that had a winning KD on the team was Twiz. And he was one of the guys they let go. John, believe it or not, had the lowest KD on the team at the relegation tournament. So if John's going to be the rock, he needs to be solid from the get-go. Can't have any bad games if they want to compete in this pool.
Twiz, I never know what to expect from Twiz. I mean, I like the kid, but remember he took all that flack during Ghost for being a baiter and how slow he would play and how he would stat and stuff. So I guess I just don't take much from when he has a high KD. Granted, it could be a completely different play style from them in this game. I just haven't watched enough of him, but I gotta think there's more to it. There's a reason he was dropped when having that good of a KD. Typically, you don't drop your top KD unless there's something behind it. So I gotta think there were some frustrations with his play style and how it meshed with this squad.
Alrighty, well, that's a look at VVV. Surprisingly, VVV coming in at the 3rd spot in this Group C.
Yeah, very surprising.
ISO is way down at the 4th spot. Isolation Esports came through the relegation tournament, and they did it in incredible fashion. Not only did they take out Prophecy, stopping Aches from returning to the Pro League, at least with a relegation squad, Dito, Havoc, Silly, and Llama God were able to win the entire event. But this weekend, they will not have Llama God, the man who clutched up that round 11 for them. Max, what are you thinking about Havoc, Silly, and Dito? Can they get it done here with the 4th and God RX? I know they played with them in the past.
It's going to be tough. I mean, when you look at this Isolation squad, you think, okay, these 4 players need to play together. right now, so far, that team of 4 has looked kind of shaky in Season 3. They played OG. They lost to them. They lost to TCM, which was very surprising. They lost both hard points on host. Dito and Ace getting a little bit into it on Twitter over
Which
that.
was really crazy because they went 10-1 in hardpoint at the relegation tournament.
Best
It was
game
their
mode.
strongest game mode at the start of Season 3 even.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
talked about that
'cause-
so much.
Oh, yeah.
While casting during Season 3, I'm like, hardpoint, hardpoint, hardpoint. Then I watched them lose it over and over and over again.
And the funny part is, Isolation going into Season 3 relegation were considered to be, quote-unquote warriors because they have, God, Llama God, Silly, also players with great internet. So,
Power
Couple
internet.
live real close to each other, too.
yeah, exactly. So the fact that they've looked like shaky so far in Season 3 is really shocking. S&D also they're struggling in. Like we mentioned, Llama got clutch out that round 11 against Prophecy. Not going to be there. They're 1-4 in Season 3, and then Uplink they're 1-3 in Season 3 as well. So
Dito and I
know how
tweeted
well they're gonna
back
do.
and forth a little bit after they lost that recent series.
oh yeah,
And he's just seemed kind of frustrated. Like he just said players aren't rotating when they need to be. So it's just something they have to figure out. They've been teaming together for such a long time. Now, do you think, I guess this is always my concern, when you have a team like ISO that seems to have very good synergy, they seem to really like each other, they've been teaming together for a while, they kind of break out. They win that relegation event. This is sort of their time to shine. They're all starting to stream. Eyes are on them more and more. Does anyone get an ego? Do any issues happen with the roster? And that's what I'm watching to see, because you hate to see that kind of stuff happen, but that happens all the time.
Right. It happened pretty quickly with Enigma 6, I felt like.
a little quickly, yeah.
Seen that way, yeah.
So we'll see what's going to happen with Isolation. For me, though, I'm still pretty high on this squad. That was our 4th team. Let's go ahead and look at our predictions overall, guys. We said maybe it'll be Team Orbit that comes through. I still think Isolation can beat Orbit, especially in those hard points. They beat them at the relegation tournament for the championship there. I think they do it again, and that's what puts them up top. Denial, though, is the only team I'm certain about. I have no idea what to expect from Team Kaliber. VVV, honestly, the current roster is weaker than what I've seen from them in the past, so I have them in my 5 spot. Max, you have them the highest at number 4. What are you hoping to see out of VVV, and why don't you think Orbit gets the job done this weekend?
Oh man! First of all, before I go on an Orbit rant, I want to just go out there and say that I did not make that Orbit graphic from the ESR that Burns got a little heated about.
Max made it.
No, I
Burns.
didn't.
That graphic was hilarious.
It was
I was so
Jack.
happy, and I love
Jack.
Burns, but that made me laugh. No, I was
Oh,
glad
yeah,
that
no, I
was
love-
creative.
yeah,
I
but I mean-
save that to use it whenever Burns says something stupid on Twitter.
Oh great. But the Orbit squad, I am not sold on this team at all. I'm more confident in VVV to beat Orbit just because in the fact that
What planet are you on?
okay. Orbit have looked like they beat TCM, right? TCM was not the same team that they are now that they played game 1. TCM looked all over the place. They looked a lot different playing OG. You can even agree to that.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So,
Continue. This is story time with Max.
no, let's start time. This team, I don't think their Slayers are consistent enough to, and I'm banking on John to have a big event to go off, and then Fierce to provide some sort of AR dominancy to this team for VVV. But, I mean, I'll pick TK over Orbit. I'll take Isolation with a sub to beat Orbit.
And VVV, you think
Yeah.
easy here? Is it a 3-0, 3-1,
No,
3-2?
it'll be close.
How many maps does Orbit win in your eyes?
No, they'll win a couple maps. They're not going to go like, oh, and
Okay.
they're not going to
You
get like
could literally
12.
take. All right, so Denial wins. You could take the other 4 teams from me right now.
Yeah, throw them
Write
in a
their
hat.
names on a piece of paper, toss them in a hat, and pour them on the ground. Because I have no idea. Do I think VVV has the best chance to come out 5th? Yes. But when it comes to Isolation, Orbit, and TK right now, with the way that I've seen them play, the way I saw ISO and Orbit play on LAN, any of those teams could beat each other any given night. I'm not confident saying anyone would take a 9 out of 10 in a series. Like, I'm not confident at all.
Yep.
So,
Orbit had to go to too many game 5s, and they were able to clutch those at the relegation tournament.
Yeah.
Faceno had some really big S&Ds, but Burns, I think, was the biggest factor for them at relegation.
Yeah.
He went off.
yeah, he really did. He
Pro
had
League
so many
Online hasn't been able to shine like that.
Nope.
So I think Burns is going to be my key player to watch here from Orbit.
Wait.
But I think you have him way too far down at number 5.
No.
Will they be number 4?
let-
Maybe.
I mean,
It's up to TK.
Okay, they have 2 wins in Season 3. They beat TCM 3-0. Went out. That TCM team had really no clue what they were doing day 1. They're really frustrated.
Okay.
They're still looking what they're doing. And their other win came against Epsilon, the worst team in the league. It was a 3-2, and Nagafen team native Remy. You guys casted that.
It was a team, Nate.
Yeah.
It's
It
fantastic.
was a double team nade. He double team naded him twice. Like he didn't. He was like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't kill you. Let me try to kill you again." So
it was amazing.
It was fantastic. It was like a ballet. It was beautiful. So I think fifth. Like they're
Well,
not.
now we know Max likes to go to the ballet.
All the time.
Hey man, there's nothing not manly about you loving ballet.
Not at all.
Mr. X has a friend in New York. I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, no problem. I get paid to go to the ballet.
Maven, so real quick, why did you copy my exact breakdown of this group?
Is this the one I copied?
Yeah,
no, it's different. Oh, no, it is the same.
Well, no, I switched up some stuff. I know some of them I just agreed with when I looked at them on paper, or I just wasn't confident switching anything. But the only thing I really had trouble with was the 3 through 4. I couldn't decide where to go, and I'm going to be 100% frank with you, and I should admit this, but I did not realize Isolation had a sub until right before the show went live.
Yep.
So when I picked this, I was going on the fact that they'd have Llama God. That's why I was pretty confident with them in second. But now, knowing that they don't have Llama God,
It'll be tough.
I actually probably feel a little bit differently about how I'd break this down. But yeah, I mean, Chris, mostly comes down to I just wouldn't know how to pick between Isolation, Orbit, and TK the way they've been playing right now.
Can I tell you guys what's going to happen after this tournament?
Let's hear it.
TK is going to lose to Isolation.
Oh, no.
Okay.
They're going to realize Havoc is number 5, if not a top 4 player in this entire group.
Okay, hold on.
And they're making a roster change.
Oh, here we go.
Isolation falls apart as they lose Havoc, the upcoming young god with incredible internet from San Antonio, Texas.
I'll tell you what, man. He is by far the most fun player to watch in S&D I've seen in quite some time.
I bet you 100 pesos this happens, Maven.
So now we're up to 5 cents.
100 Colombian pesos that this move is going to occur.
Oh, my God.
Well, what the issue with me, for me, would be who are the two that live right next to each other? Is it Havoc and Silly?
Havoc and Llama God.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 2 of them, I think, are like friends, right?
Yep.
And then they live close to, Moach, I think it's close to
Yeah.
him as well. That, I mean, maybe. I guess I think it would be hard for, as long as they're doing decently, I wouldn't think like 2 real-life friends would split very easily. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Just keep in mind, TK is the number 2 team in this group. They're 1-3 overall in the Pro League. ISO also 1-3.
Toughest group of the tournament.
It's going to be insane, especially if we're right with our predictions that Relapse, the number 1 seed from Open, doesn't have the best of time, and Orbit somehow ends up in Pool C. Also keep in mind, we have no idea where DT, Orbit, and more are actually going to
finish.
I
just realized that this whole thing I did based off the fact that you put Orbit in this pool, and it screwed me up for so long because that's what I was focused on more than anything was Orbit. Like how Orbit would do in this pool is what I focused on more than anything. So Chris, it's your fault.
I appreciate that.